Here we are with the Bozos. It's the Bozo Bus, the Pallazzo podcast. Prospects Power Hour with my men, Big Gentle Ben Chase, and Mr. Robbie Baseball at Robbie Baseball 1. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Doing great. It's
excellent.
It's 40,
happy to be here.
It's 45 degrees outside in South Dakota. So, I mean, snow's melting. How can life get much worse?
Shut the front door. Yeah. You can get out in the world, man. That's amazing.
I went out without a coat. So, that's cool.
Oh, there we go. In January.
Living dangerously.
Yeah, there you go.
What about you, Mr. Baseball? How are you doing? How's the weather in Canada?
It's good. On my way to your great nation yesterday, we were watching the snow, the closer to the border, melt and lessen, and the flooding increasing and increasing.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I was at hockey last night, the Canadian national pastime, that and lacrosse, got to play one of them. So I'm playing hockey. Some moron showed up wearing shorts. And I said, how very Canadian of you, Will, who also, he led the team in turnovers last night. So we don't need to get into the hockey gist of it, but things are good, good weather, and happy, of course, to be talking baseball tonight with you guys.
I like hearing that. I'm out in the Northwest, and we had temperatures in the low 50s today. So I'm with you, Ben. Like it was nice out. I didn't have to wear my long johns or a big heavy coat. I just had my hoodie on. So that was nice. And I'm also excited to talk about baseball. As everybody watching and listening knows, this is the Prospects Power Hour, and we've got a couple of heavy hitters here at the Pallazzo podcast crew that are going to break down 3 organizations for you tonight. And before we got together, each one of them came up with their top 3 and their next 3 for the Miami Marlins, for the Cleveland Guardians, and for the Los Angeles Angels. I don't know if the Angels really have a farm system, but I mean,
oh my God,
a little bit.
Come on. They got so many.
I know it's thick and deep, right? So we're going to be talking about some of these players having a little back and forth banter, and I'm going to throw in a couple names that my gentleman missed out on, and I have some questions for why they didn't feel
like it.
They didn't have these people in their listing. So we're going to start out with the Miami Marlins. I'm just going to jump right into it. Are you guys ready to get down and dirty? Are you guys ready to just get it?
I mean, just a second. Hold on.
While.
Oh, he's
okay. Yeah. No, I'm good to go. All right.
My coffee. I live dangerously at night. So.
I'll take the indigestion. You take the caffeine.
There you go. I'll be switching to whiskey next.
Yeah.
But we have the Miami Marlins, who their front office has gone through some changes in the last year. Kim Ng left, and they're known for their pitching. They're a very pitching heavy major league roster that goes 7-8 deep, depending on who you think is going to come back this year. But their minors are also stacked with some pitching, as you gentlemen have demonstrated in your list. We're going to start out with Mr. Robbie Baseball tonight. Robbie, I want you to talk to me about who your top 3 are. Just hit me with them 1, 2, 3, and give me, say what you want. Say as much or as little as you want about them.
Okay. The theme for tonight in general with all the teams is it's an arms race. So with the Marlins, we've got Max Meyer. We've got Thomas White, the lefty, and we've got Noble Meyer or Meyer. I don't care about the pronunciation. I picked all names I could at least spit out tonight to some degree after the last big 3 debacle. I was looking for anybody whose name had a Smith in it, a junior. I would accept something very basic. But anyway, no, those guys aside, we've got, a 24-year-old in Noble, a couple 19-year-old guys out of last year's draft class. Miami drafted to their strength, which has been developing pitching. I think that's agreeable, and bringing in a righty and a lefty who are going to be able to give great looks. They've done good things with Yuri Perez, and up until the debut, we really liked Meyer in the MLB, and then he got hurt. And what happens when a prospect gets hurt? Boom, they're off the list because the next year's draft class comes up and everyone's excited about them and has a fresh new scouting report. And then, a year later, everyone's thinking, oh, right, that guy. But we don't know anymore what we've got, and we don't know what that arm's going to do. So I always like to think, let's give it 18 months, but let's not let's not move them away from where they were. let's leave that hype where it is. So I like these three guys. And I mean, Miami's done such a good job of in-house development that having these three guys, one on the cusp and two just entering the system, puts them in a great spot.
I agree. Ben, give me your top three because I believe they're pretty similar.
In fact, they are exactly the same.
Yes, 2 shows in a row. We've had one pair.
We've had at least one pairing. I want to talk a little bit about my boy Max Meyer because, quite frankly, I'm a huge stan. I myself went to the University of Minnesota, so I always follow. Yeah, I always follow the Gopher boys as they come out. But Max was on a very different level from any Gopher I've been able to follow. The guy, I don't know if you guys remember that Oregon State team that had Adley Rutschman and Nick Madrigal, and I mean they were freaking stacked, and they got to the College World Series on the back of a freshman starter named Kevin Abel. They blew his freaking arm out in the College World Series, but they got there on the back of this kid. Kevin Abel and Max Meyer to go to the College World Series went toe for 7. And it was probably the most dominant back-to-back or like one-on mano-a-mano pitching matchup I've seen in college in a long freaking time until this year when Lauder and Skeens tried to go head-to-head. That was a hell of a matchup. That's probably the first time I've been more impressed with two pitchers in the college level than this game. And Meyer was a legit two-way guy. And in fact, in the 2020 draft, when you talk to scouts, every scout I talked to about the draft said, if you asked him who's the most athletic guy in the draft, brought up Max Meyer. And that's a pitcher. I mean, this guy is a legit athlete. Yeah, he's 6 foot tall, but he is such a hardworking athlete. I have every confidence he's going to be back in some way, shape, or form. He might not be the guy who has a 70 fastball and an 80 slider anymore. But if he suddenly has a 60, and, you know, people forget his changeup was graded as a above average to even plus before he got hurt. He just never needed to use it because the fastball and slider were so freaking good. If he comes back with 3 pitches that are legit plus-ish, you're talking about a guy who's easily a mid-rotation starter.
Right. And I think that that's important to bring up his athleticism because he is a really tiny pitcher for what you consider to be a frontline starter, somebody who's going to be dominant, throw innings, strike people out, you know, carry the burden of the team on their shoulders. He reminds me of Billy Wagner. For some reason, I see that tiny guy, but I'm with you that he is a starter, and I think he's going to be a great starter. Coming into this episode, when I was looking around, most all places have Noble Meyer as the more tantalizing prospect to roster in our game than Max Meyer. And I think that just goes to show that you guys really like those players that have already gotten to the majors, that have shown that there's some rubber to the road, that they're actually performing against high level people. So, Robbie, do you want to throw anything in on Thomas White? You liked him number 2. Why do you like him more than Noble Meyer?
So in this particular scenario that I'm working with here, I'm giving the edge to the lefty over the righty. It was one of those astute signings that teams will do at times where, you know, we're going to draft you here with the intention of having some cash to throw your way. We don't, you know, we want to put you in the system and, hey, look at who your teammate could be coming up all the way. Let's see that guy that was going, you know, high end of the draft, that we got him too. We got a buddy for you. But I feel like that the approach that he could have, and if I didn't write down his size, which was good of me.
6'4", I believe.
I was just say he was in the 6'4" club. Thank you. So he's in that like long, lanky category. And one of the advantages that we're going to have is watching him come up. The only issue that I could see, of course, is either one of these guys stumble and they end up not competing with each other, which I'm hoping is the idea. You know, Miami starts them off, whatever they're going to do, if they're going to do a little complex or then get them to Florida State League, wherever they're going to go with these guys, keep them together and have simultaneous promotions. So they're pushing one another. But I really like the idea of White as the lefty having a little bit of the edge as we continue to see these guys develop, because it's a high school arm And if you're, coming from Florida or you're coming from New Jersey, you've got the ability naturally to have more innings on your arm. But the showcase circuit in the northern part of the country, as I've been learning a little bit more about guys in and around me, there's a team 20 minutes from me in Stratford that regularly every other week is going somewhere in the States for tournament ball. So these guys get a ton of innings on their arms no matter what. I'm just going to stick with White on the hunch and the lefty advantage. That's all it is, because it's really a coin flip. They're so far away at this point. It's not a clear to me one over the other. The high school class was really good this year, and I think in 5 years I'm going to really hate myself when none of them have done diddly.
Well, somebody smarter than me said that there is no such thing as a pitching prospect. So, 10 snap all day. Let's go real quickly, Ben, or actually, let's again stay with you, Robbie. I want to hear your next three. And again, give me, say the name, and then give me a line. Just give me a little feeder on them. Unless
Absolutely.
You're one of these three.
I've got Fabian Lopez as one of my next. I've got Dax Fulton, lefty pitcher. Lopez is a switch hitting shortstop, and Victor Mesa Jr., lefty outfielder, 22-year-old. This isn't the brother that everybody remembers from, I think it was 2019, J2, the Victor Mesa. This was Victor Mesa Jr., the one the dad likes so much, he's just said, just Victor for you, son, because that's what you'll be, Victor Aureus. And he has come along very well. He's a good OBP guy, and he also had that hush about him because he was the brother, as we've heard about, with the Tatises and the Acuñas, where they're the family, the second cousin, the whatever. Yes. We know about them from that, but we don't really know what they're doing. Well, I had Victor Mesa Jr. in several dynasty leagues. I've still got him in a couple because he's just come along slowly. As we've watched Victor fail, we've seen Victor Mesa slowly move his way up, and he's at the point of AA. He could get AAA this year. And when he's an age 24 season in 2025, I think he could be knocking on the door. And Miami does move bodies. They're a little conflicting as far as their minors development. Like, you think a guy's naturally progressing, and then they, give an extension to some bag of dicks that should have been cut. And they stick around. They get 400 at bats, and the position's blocked. So with Victor Mesa Jr., I'm hoping there is a spot for him. Going back a step, teammate at AA, Dax Fulton, lefty. He's just like a dreamy arm. I guess I got a weird thing with lefties at the moment, but it's the off season. It's cold here, and I got to find something to do with my time to warm me up. And dreaming on a lefty in Miami is not a bad thing. When it gets to when it gets to Fabian Lopez, elite glove, lots of potential with a hit tool. He's 6'1", 180, great starting point for a future shortstop with the Marlins.
That's love the lefties, man. You just sing their praises. Good to know. I'm learning.
It's going to get worse. We got more to go.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Smother it all over. Yeah. Ben, let's hear your next three for Miami.
So I brought in, my first one is Yiddy Cappy, who I will admit that I'm a big fan of, but really not how the hell he performed this last year, because that was not the guy I was expecting.
There was a lot expected of him last year, Ben, and he just let, I think, a lot of dynasty or whatever, just fantasy people and regular baseball fans down.
Yep.
The walk rate was crap compared to what he had been doing in the minors up to that point, which was really disappointing. Dax Fulton is another one I have. I love the fact the kid is 6'7" and 235. And if you would, but the thing is, you look at him and he's not Bartolo Colon 235. Let's put it that way.
He's 7.
This is a kid who looks like he could just, frankly, he looks like if he'd get in the weight room a little bit, he might be able to build up and become an offensive tackle. He's got wide shoulders, wide hips. And I like what he does. He has a little bit of goofy funk in his delivery, but when you're 6'7" and he's like high 3/4 to almost over the top delivery, that ball is so different coming at a player. And he hated the sticky stuff. His season would have gotten so much better if he would have been able to pitch more without the sticky stuff, because he got about 2 starts without it. His command had come back, and then his elbow popped. So that's what you get. The last one, and this is going to be a theme for me tonight, kind of promoting what we're doing Wednesday, I have got one of the January 15th signees for every team on here tonight.
Let's go.
For the Marlins, that is Luis Cova. And this is a guy who is like, we're talking like fast as a light switch type of speed. And he's picked up center field really well so far. He's got some of those instinct things that he's still learning, but he just moved to center field from shortstop last year. He'd been playing shortstop his whole life, moved to center field, and he gets everything. But a lot of that is because of his speed right now. But he's got some natural instinct already that I think could get better as he gets more reps. But this is a guy who's just got elite freaking speed. He can show really good contact in showcase stuff that they've done for J15. I don't know if you're ever going to see him hit even double-digit home runs, but with that kind of defense, that kind of speed, he's going to have a spot in the major leagues. So
I like
if
it.
you have his signing, I'm trying to find a signing bonus on my secret. I don't see it.
$1 million.
I actually think he was
Sorry,
low 1 millions actually, I think is all he was. So I'm pulling it up real fast here. This is extremely exhilarating content right at the moment. So.
It's worth it though. Because what's going to happen, we talked about it before and we'll talk about it again when we have Mr. Badler on with us, is how a lot of dynasty players are like, what were they paid? Therefore, that is their value based on rank. Yeah. And I've got some actual questions, not just about trucks for Ben Badler. I hope he likes trucks, but snowplows too. But as to where he sees those high dollar guys, like, is that a created scenario, like the agent scenario we've been seeing this offseason play out? Or is that an earned thing of like, when they were 13, 14, they were the big dogs and they've just continued to get that big dog treatment? Like we see it in Canada at hockey, AAA players, they might not be the best by the time they hit bantam, but when they were in, Pee-wee, they were the big dogs. So that clout has carried them through. Is that what's happened with some of these guys? Or do we really need to look beyond, like look at that dollar value and say like they're paying for because we know the failure rate's super high with the J2 guys, but at the same time, look at all the superstars in MLB right now. Like, you got so many that are J2 guys.
Cunha.
Yeah.
I mean, you always want a lottery ticket. You always want that to come out, right? Like, and that's, I think we really see the lottery ticket approach with J2 signings. So
Kova was 1.4 million. I have to
so he may not have been the highest with Miami, but he certainly was in that top
he was
tier
their,
of guys.
He was their
top guy.
Okay. He was their top guy. All three of these guys tonight are going to be the top money guy for their organization. But I think two of them got got between 1 and 1.5 million. So they're not like huge spending type of guys. And I will say, Miami has been good about this, but Cleveland is exceptionally good at spreading out their bonus pool. They have always done really well grabbing a whole bunch of guys at $100,000, and then every now and then one of them turns into Brian Ruscio, something like that. So
I don't know who that player is.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, real quick before we transition to the Guardians, that's the next club we're going to talk about. I want to bring up just a couple players with Miami that neither of you brought up. They're both position players. One of them is a corner infielder. I believe played. What's up, Mike V? How you doing? Corner infielder, I believe played in the SEC in college. That would be Mr. Jacob Berry, who is in AA. And then also a prospect who still has prospect standing, who made the majors last year, a very slick hitting second baseman named Xavier Edwards. Any reason you guys left those two names off your list? Give me 30 seconds, Ben.
I will tackle Barry because I actually did a deeper dive on him thinking maybe AFL was going to do something fun for him. And that swing is jacked. It is completely jacked up right now. I think there's still some legit chance that he could get to be a 230, 25 guy, but he's a terrible defender. I mean, he was already a rough defender at third, and the guy is He's 6 foot, and I think he was like just over 200 coming in. And it wouldn't surprise me if you tell me he's 235, 250 in that range.
Okay.
He's put on a lot of weight and not all of it good. And it's just, he's not striking out at a huge rate, but it's a terrible swing and he makes terrible contact. I mean, that's just, it's really hard to watch.
Okay, fair enough. Robbie?
Who was the other failure?
Xavier Edwards.
Oh, that slapdick prospect. So
yes,
I have Edwards in one league that I refuse to move him in just because he's an athletic guy and I feel like there's potential, but I also feel like he is just slathered in not going to make it juice. And like he's had opportunities. He's done well in the minors, like when Tampa Bay acquires a player, I'm always interested because they know what's up. When they trade a player away, I always really start to hesitate about the player's future. And when Edwards was moved, I thought, okay, Miami's getting something that Tampa didn't want. And we watched the Randy Arozarena trade was the real one that lit it off for me, where it was like, why would they trade Libator? What's going on? And then, you see what Randy has become. And you're watching, Libator trying to become a major league pitcher of some sort, not necessarily a starter anymore. Maybe we'll see. But it just seems like Edwards doesn't have a spot. And if he's going to, if he's going to not get consistent playing time over the next season or so because Miami wants to win and be competitive, he's not a prospect I want to talk about for dynasty owners as much as I like the potential, which is why I would keep him in one league, but I would not hold him. I would not tell you to acquire him. I just personally feel like he's not in a good spot within that organization, right? He gets shipped to KC. Sure. You got a bit of potential. He could, take second base from Michael Massey and whatever the hell they're doing signing. Oh my God.
Adam Frazier.
Adam Frazier. Thank you.
Michael Massey's the real deal. You leave him alone.
I'm not against Michael Massey. I'm simply saying if I could have in my lineup Xavier Edwards or Michael Massey, I'm going to give Edwards the ball. Toronto, Mike could not use anyone other than a new general manager. That's what the Blue Jays could use the most. That's the first thing they need to do. And then they need a psychologist to go and talk to Alek Manoah and find out what's up. But anyway, so Edwards a good player, but bad organization for us in Dynasty.
Okay, so let's move over to Cleveland. This is where I think the most fun is going to be. I'm going to let Ben go first with his top three. This is where you guys don't agree at all. So, Ben, give me your top three. Have fun with this.
All right. So for me, this is to me, there's two clear guys, and that's Chase DeLauter and Kyle Manzardo. DeLauter's probably in that top 30 to maybe even top 20 prospect discussion with the talent that he has. Manzardo, I guess I'll take the L that, if I'm wrong on that one, but just the swing.
Hey,
looks
who
like
traded him away?
Works. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I'm just, and then my third I've got is Juan Brito. And we had this discussion last week with someone. I don't know that this is going to ever be a guy that you are seeking out in Dynasty or in fantasy, but I believe he's a guy that's going to end up as a major league player. He's a very consistent, very strong defender at multiple spots, but could be a really good one at second. And he's the type of guy that I think he's got excellent contact. He's going to be a guy that probably sits in your lineup, hits 280, 290, and doesn't do much else for you. But
he's the opposite of Arias. He's the opposite of Gabriel Arias to me.
Yeah.
Arias is defense first, and there could be some, hits. And then, Brito's like, I will hit, but please, God, don't hit a ball to me. Like, I just feel like they are the opposite of the platoon, right? If one guy could just hit and one guy could just play defense, they'd be perfect, but that's not how the game's working.
Pretty bold there. Chad TV said that DeLauter is going to be his number one prospect when Jackson Holiday loses his eligibility. I think that's a bold call.
Yeah.
Cleveland and outfielders always seem to be a real fun mixed bag once they get
Thank you.
promoted into the majors.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
until last year, though, or was it last year or 2 years ago? Cleveland had a decade plus without developing a legitimate outfielder, and then they had 5. And if you want to put Alex Call in that, they had 6 within one season that became regulars for at least a period of time. And then Will Benson confirmed the 6th last year after the trade, of course, but still like a prospect that they had developed. But
Benson and Nolan Jones, both.
Yeah. DeLauder, I think, whatever, he's got potential, but he's also got massive injury concern, which somebody had mentioned in the Pallazzo podcast Discord, which you should all join. And then there's a Patreon that I was told was $3 a month. And I mean, come on, even in Canadian, that's under $5. How can you not join for all that value? And that's the plug. So my other two, because I do have Chase on the list, I've got Rocchio. I took him over Manzardo. You want an MLB type ready guy, Sam? You talked about that already. We already favor that with our big 3. But Rocchio is a defensive guy. He is the perfect second tier dynasty shortstop. He's going to put the ball in play versus popping out, which means he could have a few more RBIs. Also could end up with double playouts, whatever. Let's be positive. He'll have more RBIs. He's not necessarily going to steal 15 bases with consistency, but the trade-off could be that he's on base and he gets you some runs because the OBP is not, sub 300. So I like him for that. Switch hitter is also great for Cleveland because they like a cheap guy that they can slot in somewhere. So he's not going to be in and out of the lineup. And then the other guy, and I mean, this is part of my sickness. Daniel Espino, I'm not gone. I am not gone on the Espino train. Is he the next Honeywell? And that's in like what Honeywell's currently doing, or is he still a starter? At 23 and 24, he's got lots of career ahead of him. The heater's going to be there. If the secondaries are solid like they were before, he could be right back up. And again, same deal as Meyer. He got hurt. He was a top 10, budding guy, got hurt. Boom, 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 tumble down he goes. Then you get the draft, boom, 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 down the prospect list. He goes even further. Espino is dropping. And I traded him last year, week 1, with some other legitimate players in a contracts league. And I got back Juan Soto. And who else was it? Shoot, it doesn't matter. Brady House was the other big guy in that deal. Those two and some other pieces for Soto. And I felt like it was theft at the time. And then Espino got hurt. And I messaged the guy. I told him, I'm so sorry. I know we're not backing out of this trade, but if you don't want Espino at some point, I will happily trade you Mick Abel, my next guy, because I still think that Espino's got it. So I'm believing.
I'm glad you apologized and said sorry. That makes me.
Did you need that? Do you want me to say who's too? I can say I was up on the roof.
So I want to challenge you a little bit. I'm feeling Manzardo a lot more than Rocchio, and I'm not rooting against him. I hope that he's able to stick, but I don't think his bat is going to translate to being a major league bat. I think he's going to be a platoon player or end up being a bench glove eventually. I don't think Cleveland puts their juice in with him. I could be wrong, but I'm not as in on him. And I got the fortune to see a Kyle Manzardo interview in person at the First Pitch last November. And his mental approach, the way that he talked about how he goes about hitting and whatnot, just blew me away at how aware he is of what he's doing with his bat, but not... when people overthink it, like if you were to ask a caterpillar with 100 legs, like, how do you walk? And pretty soon they can't walk it, or a centipede, they don't know how to walk because they're thinking about it. And you're afraid that if the athlete thinks about it, they forget how to do what they're doing. He seemed to have this real Zen shit about being athletic and being mental. I think Kyle Manzardo is my number one choice in that organization. I like him more than Chase DeLauder. I think that his bat is major league ready, and I really want to see him get on the field next year for the Guardians. I don't think that there's anybody that's going to stop him second half of next season, and he's going to run after that. But what do I know? I'm just the host, the pretty face. So
I'm always happy to be wrong. Yeah. I want all these guys to succeed. I just figured for the case for this particular thing, I want the switch hitting shortstop. I'm going to let the bat develop with him. Whereas with Manzardo, he has to hit.
Yes.
Rocchio can rely on defense and learn if necessary, because Cleveland's not going to bring, they don't have the Jose Iglesias in their AAA system they could bring up if it's all falling apart. He is going to be the guy. They'll move Arias over, I guess, if they need to, but they don't want to rely on Arias because they want to see what Rocchio can do. So whereas with Manzardo, I think it could be not a churn and burn, but it could be like okay, well, we're going to bring you back to AAA. We want to get you right if it's all going like poorly, of course.
Well,
but
prospects, what can you do with them, right? You can't live them and you can't shoot them. So,
but they are the cheapest asset an MLB team has, and they like to, what is it, $710,000 they get this year? They like to pay as many of those salaries versus our guys and free agents. So they do serve a purpose to teams like Cleveland, especially, right?
Yes. So
I will say quickly on Manzardo, last year he went through some pretty heavy family stuff.
Yes.
That really affected his mental health, and he took some time away mentally because he knew he wasn't doing what he needed to do on the field because his mind wasn't in it at the moment. And that's when he got traded. Which to me, there's other things that I could bring up that why I think Tampa Bay is a dick of an organization. But that certainly is one of them. But he ended up doing, he got himself back on track, came into Cleveland and kind of had to adjust. Now I'm with a new organization. I need to understand what they're trying to get me to do, plus then perform. And I think for him, I honestly, if you watched him play in the Arizona Fall League, he was so tight all year. He was having fun down in Arizona. He was finally loose after a really tough mental year.
Yes.
So.
And I want to double down on the Tampa Bay love that you're spreading right there, that have alienated players unlike any front office.
Oh yeah.
Or just as equally as any front office in the majors. And Luke Raley was excited to come to Seattle. So
well,
if you're a player and you want to come to Seattle, there's something that you're dealing with at your home organization. So that's hopefully Tampa Bay is not as bad as we feel.
And Tampa Bay was willing to make that deal because they have the belief that they can make an Aaron Savale into whatever Tampa Bay deems he is to them. And at the time they were devastated with arm injuries. Again, like this isn't a trade that would have been made opening day last year. This was an in-season, somewhat sell low on the Tampa side, which I mean, Cleveland was able to do that with Miami too, and Khalil Watson, which I guess maybe I'm getting ahead. I don't know. Am I getting ahead with the next big three?
Okay. Yes, Mike, I know Jorge Polanco is a Mariner. Decided if I'm excited about it or not, because as I was talking to Ben before the show, I'm a huge Gabriel Gonzalez stan. I just love that man's bat, attitude, mental makeup, athletic ability. We're not talking about the Mariners. Ben, hit me with your next three. Who are the next three up for Cleveland that you're excited to be looking at?
Okay, so my first one is Alex Clemmie, guy that they drafted this year, 6'6" lefty, and mid-90s fastball. He has touched 100 already as a pro, which is freaking ridiculous out of the left-hand side. But what's interesting to me is he's got a huge curveball, huge fastball, and he goes to Cleveland. Like normally Cleveland takes guys that have the command, have the secondaries, and they work with them to shape or build up their fastball. Instead, they ended up drafting this guy who's got a huge freaking fastball from the left side, no less, and a huge curve. Yeah, out of high school. And they need to teach him command.
And if I may, you may. Who was the last big velo guy they drafted out of high school?
Espino.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just saying.
Thank
so
you. I know he's hurt and everybody hates him right now, but let's just remember this in 18 months.
Yeah.
I'm going to look around the murder room here and just take my blood from you back there.
So because I'm not gonna make Chad wait any longer. The next guy I have is Jason Churio. And to me, watching him, this is the Luis Angel to Ronald Jr. as far as the Acuna boys go. Very talented, could still be a major leaguer. He is nowhere near the same skill set as Jackson. Nowhere near. A lot of people like it, but Jason takes a swing like a guy who is swinging for the fences every single time, and he hits a ground ball. That tells you something not so great about your swing. If you are leveraging your swing like a mother and you are hitting the ball into the ground or hitting bloop singles, that's not what you should be doing the way that his swing arches.
And you picked him 5. So what do you like about him?
What I like is he's still, legit, when he gets into the box in batting practice, the kid can send stuff 10 rows deep. It's just that for some reason in game, and a big part of it is he has really struggled to put that power to high level breaking pitches and definitely to any premium velocity. Got to get there. This guy to me has a profile that reminds me a lot of Victor Robles, which is not a good thing.
That's heavy on
Not
the D.
a good
That
thing.
is heavy on the D.
So yeah. Well, and we'll just leave that comment alone. But he's really going to rely on that defense to get him to the majors. He could have a couple seasons. Victor early on had some really fun fantasy seasons, and then just forgot how to take any sort of a walk, and eventually lost his position because the contact skills just didn't stay at 290, and they never were 290 really.
Right.
And
he wasn't bad at being it either. Like it was just a weird thing that it was like he's not that good, and every prospect circles were all over him, and for too long. And once they left, everybody's like, oh no, he could still be a major leaguer. It's like fourth outfielder. Yeah.
So, and then my third guy I'm going to bring up is Cleveland's top J15 signee, and that's Robert Arias. And I've only seen a little bit of video on this guy. Swing from the left side is he's an outfielder. He's a left-handed swinger, has a frame that could fill into something nice, but his swing is so jacked up. He's going to get into the Cleveland system. They're going to try and teach him how to swing, which they're going to try and teach him how to be frickin' Stephen Kwan. And he's got the frame to actually be a legit power hitter, which worries me as far as how he ends up developing. But he has the type of body that could eventually become a rare Cleveland power hitter that they develop if they let him just be. But the swing is going to need some work.
I want to push back a little bit on Jason Churio. It always worries me when somebody is trying to swing as hard as they can instead of just learning to swing violently and hard every time. Those athletes that don't learn to just, I'm swinging for 90th percentile. I'm not swinging as hard as I can. I'm swinging hard. I don't, you don't want somebody swinging up there at 90th percentile and swinging like me or like a Stephen Kwan, right? But I really worry about Jason Churio, and I think that he's somebody that we never see in the majors except for maybe a cup of coffee. I hope I'm wrong again, but that's going to be my pushback on them. Robbie, give me your next 3. Who are the next 3 up for Cleveland?
Next 3 up, we've got the sleeper of the group in Big Willie Dion. And by big, I mean he's 5'10". He's got a Stroman build to him, but he's from the left side. He throws this really cool pitch. It's called the strike. So he's got a fastball. He's got lots of movement. But the fastball is like 91 is kind of what I settled on, like checking various reports and stuff. But the slider, curve, changeup, that's where the money is for him, right? So he's got a fastball as a setup pitch, not the out pitch. He's not going to overwhelm anybody, but he's been doing good K to 9. Needs to make hitters miss more at strike 2, so he doesn't become a contact guy or the dreaded like long relief type when he comes up. He should be able to, Cleveland just reset their rotation last year with a bunch of minimum wage guys, prospects they're called, and he's going to have to kind of wait his turn. So that's why I'm not sure exactly what his break-in would be, but he should be AAA this year, all of 2024, and we'll see where it goes from there. But he's somebody who kind of came on the scene for me midseason last year when it was a bit of a track record. It was 2021 9th round pick. So nobody was on him. Screw you. You were not on him. He surprised us all with his sheer grit and determination to succeed in life. And I think he's got a lot of baseball left in him, even though 24 at AAA is fine. We got a hand up in the crowd.
Yeah. I owned Will Dion coming into 2023. Just want to throw that out there. That
it was 2022 that he appeared to us all, but like I drafted him in 2022 in one of my like big money, we'll call it, dynasty leagues, True Test MLB Dynasty for everybody out there, and he was one of the guys who I had the most off-season trade offers for. He was the pretend throw-in guy. Oh, well, give me Dion and we'll get this deal done. I was like, no. I want to see what he does in 2023 because I really liked what I saw in 2022. So he's number, he doesn't have to be number 4, but he's number 4. And then I've got Alex Clemmy because we're dreaming on him. Great high school signing. We already discussed that. I'm gonna say, he's the next one. Okay. And then Petey Halpin, the slow burn 2020 AA guy. I loved him from the name. I also had, like, on Dingers, we had this really smart guy, Mason McRae, who would come on with us. His father's a college coach. He's now an employee of the Chicago Cubs. And Mason's smart dude. And he loved him some Petey Halpin going into the draft because he had all this fun, exciting data that was not out there for the common man. So when I had this access to this data through Mason, I learned fun things, and he's continued to be good. He's a sleeper amongst the pick and amongst an organization that has sleepers. He's a 22-year-old that'll be at AA this year, possibly into AAA, and nobody is excited. Out of the draft, he had a little bit of that hype, but that was like Evan Carter was going to be the best of his draft year. Right out of the draft, Petey Halpin was not in that like get on him group. He was like David Calabrese on the previous. Was it the previous? No. Whenever it was that we initially talked about some of those weird kind of slow burn guys, Halpin's amongst that crew.
All right. So there's a couple names in this system that I was curious about you guys not choosing. I'm going to corner infielder that they just picked up from the
Uncle Ted.
Hello, Uncle Ted. What's up to you? They just picked up a corner infielder from the Arizona Diamondbacks that looks like he's going to get run in the majors this year. That's Mr. De Los Santos. Any reason you guys didn't like
Bison? Name pronunciation was my first issue for tonight.
You admitted that up front, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'm cheating by looking here because I was trying to figure out if he was the 23-year-old that I was thinking about or the 20-year-old. He's the 20-year-old.
He's a Rule 5 guy, and as far as I'm concerned,
that's where
as far as anything I can find from anyone beyond those who really want to hype up De Los Santos, he is going back to Arizona. He's going to probably give Manzardo someone to fight against in spring and then be sent back to Arizona. That's fair. He's not a guy who's ready for big league time yet. He's got so much work to do on his pitch recognition that I think he needs another full year of upper minors.
I have a buddy who's a huge Diamondbacks fan that was really bummed out that he got sent to Cleveland, and he feels a little bit stronger about his ability to stick in the majors and give Cleveland a legit bat off the bench. Because I don't think if they truly give Kyle Manzardo an opportunity and he shows out in spring training, I don't think that he's going to come off of first. And Jose Ramirez is not coming off a third base. And so, I see him giving them time off and playing some DH for him, but I'm interested in him. The other one is a AAA outfielder, Mr. George Valera.
No.
Talk to me about why you don't like him, Mr. Ben.
I'll be honest, I'm kind of sick of him.
He was the 2008 J2 class, right? That's where he was.
Something like that. I mean, seriously, Valera's hoping to stick in the minors long enough to play with his son. I think that's really where he's at this point.
Wow. Seriously, I can't. Okay.
But
it's prospect fatigue. That's what it is, Sam. It
really is.
He's been up and down that ladder, and we just don't care anymore. Yeah. That's on Florial. Great comparable.
Okay. He has to absolutely max out his physicality in order to be something because he's 6 foot. He's 6 foot. He's 200. He doesn't have like the big big levers that could potentially be something. He doesn't have, I mean, he's not built like, I mean, he's not a Mike Trout build, but he's 6 foot and 200. So it's not like he's going to suddenly start stealing 30 bases a year either. So it's just, I don't really know what the hell you get from him anymore.
Okay.
You know, I watched him a little in AAA this year, and he just looks like another guy in the outfield. He just isn't really, he doesn't, there was a point where he stood out and you're like, oh shit, this is going to be something, but injuries and whatever has just really knocked him backwards.
You think he's found his level. So fair enough. So we are going to go into the deepest organization for prospects in the major leagues. I mean, this organization is stacked.
We already covered Colorado, Sam. We've covered the Rockies. I don't know what you're talking about.
The Rockies have no prospects. They absolutely do not
God.
have a minor league organization. I love their players. I have no confidence in their front office. Coors Field.
Yes, absolutely.
No confidence. So the deepest one besides the Colorado Rockies is our favorite, the Los Angeles Anaheim Angels, whoever they are. Robbie, I want you to give me your big three. Who are the three Angels you think we need to be paying attention to in 2024?
In a super particular order, Caden Dana, right-handed SP, 20-year-old. Noah Schnoel. I shouldn't have put him on the list.
Nolan
Chanel.
Wow.
Anyway, he's already the first baseman, and he was drafted in June. So he's an easy case study. Always been great average, great OBP. Played college the same place he played in high school. I think the report I saw, it said he didn't even move. Didn't take a room up in residence.
That's great.
So he's an OBP guy. So even if he struggles offensively with the Angels, they're not going to move him. Very much like, their shortstop situation, which is why their number 3 guy for me hurts me, Kyron Paris. Paris, second base is his best option, but friggin' Luis Rengifo is blocking him there. And it's too bad because he hits, he steals, he plays good D. He just doesn't have a spot on that team without an injury. There is lots of swing and miss, but there's OBP too. He should be able to steal bases. One of the biggest problems I have is that he could absolutely be buried on the bench because he has the ability to come in and play middle infield. He can also steal a base when you need him later in the game. So you don't want to throw that down in the minors if you want it up at the MLB level. Like if the Angels want to win 65 games this year, they're going to need Paris coming in the 7th, the 8th, 9th, stealing a base. Having 2 or 3 guys getting hit by pitches so we can move over to third. And then hopefully, like Homer in the big game gets hit in the head so they can drive in that run. They're going to need offense is what I'm saying. Because at some point, Anthony Rendon is going to stub his toe and be out for the year. And if not, he's just going to be a cancer in that clubhouse. And Paris I don't think he's the third base option there. So I love him and I want to bank on the skills, but I don't see it happening with the Angels outside of an injury, which happens every year. But those are the guys. I'm not discounting Paris as I have with other guys because of the organization. Because I just really like all the fantasy things he does. All the tools are there. He just doesn't have a spot.
Now you put Caden Dana ahead of Nolan, and it's very uncommon that we get somebody who's drafted and immediately debuts in the majors or makes his major league debut the same calendar year that he is drafted. Why do you like Caden Dana? Talk a little bit about him.
So this goes back to the special place in my heart for the high schoolers drafted. And really it's become drafted mid rounds the year before. So it's the over slot guys who opted out of their college commitment. He did have a fatigue break last year, but he also pitched 70 innings. And I did kind of allude to this earlier where sometimes the prep arms pitch us a lot more than we think they do. Sometimes they're on 2 teams. They pitch once a week for team A, and then they have a different kind of thing they do where they pitch once a week for team B. Sometimes it's high school and travel ball. That's a very common thing where the innings aren't accounted for. But once they get into a real professional organization, if we want to call the Angels that, they start to really track the arms and the bullpens and they count all of it. Mm-hmm. And they don't want the guy to, go too hard, go too far. And this is a 6'4", 215 will be 20-year-old this year. he's got a huge ceiling, and I just don't see, like, as much as, you know, we got a legit first baseman he's not necessarily a 30 home run guy. So I'm not saying we've got, you know, Todd Helton, the next one out west. I like the idea of Dana being an SP1 too, and it coming up in the 27 season, you know, realistically. But right now he's totally in dormancy mode in fantasy baseball. Like, people kind of know about him in your really deep leagues, and I'm hoping I can successfully scoop him up. I've got a draft starting February 1st. I've got a universal draft starting February 5th. And if I don't get him in the first because some a-hole listens to this that's in my league and takes him on me just to be a dick, which happens,
Do it.
I'm just going to jump early on the league, like on the one that's a universal draft in the 5th. And I'll probably get 4 messages after I pick him with like, oh, he was in my queue. You know, 200 spots back, but he was in their queue. So I got a feeling on Dana because he's the guy, right? They draft 1 million college players. And yeah, exactly. Ron Washington. So Uncle Ted says all that matters is that the Angels have Ron Washington. All the rest of it's gone. Forget Queen Otani, Wash and Trout. It's on like Donkey Kong. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The other thing is Washington can teach anybody to play first base. So he might just move known right off the position. Anyway, so that's it with Dana. It's really just like, I've been down the wormhole with the prep arms and I'm stuck. So I like them, and it's going to stay like that.
I like your picks. Ben, why don't you hit me with your big 3?
All right. So I have Shadwell, and a little stat for you guys. He had the most plate appearances for someone in their draft season since Bob Horner in 1978.
More than John Olerud? More than Dave Winfield?
Yeah.
Oh, Olerud was up in his draft year?
Oh, I didn't realize. At the very end of his draft.
Winfield never played in the minors.
Yep.
Oh, okay. I think I did know that. I didn't realize it was drafted same year.
Yeah. So, but
the original Otani.
I think Olerud actually is a really good comp as far as the skills are concerned. I mean, if you have Shanwell and you're in an OBP league, he's a really good corner infield type. Yeah. I don't know that I'd want
points leagues too, Ben, because you're going to get points for those walks, and then that'll lead to some runs. Yeah,
and he is a good doubles hitter. I mean, so in a points league, that's going to help you out in a lot of those type of leagues too. But my other guy that we have in common is Dana, and I watch him and I see like, okay, this is going to scare people based on the last year, but
I know who you're going to say.
I see a Lance Lynn prototype, and Lance Lynn for a lot of years was a guy who was a 1B type of starter. He wasn't your ace, but he was a really freaking good starter for a long time, and just has kind of hit the wall at this point in his career, which that happens to guys. But it's who he reminds me a lot of really good stuff I think he works quickly on the mound. It's like he wants to get to inning number 7. So he's moving through. He's trying to get guys to ground out because he's like, God damn it, you're making me strike you out. I don't want to do that. Let me get through this. I want to get moving on to the next inning. And it's really fun to watch him. He competes hard on the mound. I love watching a guy that does that. The other guy I have, if this were 1985, this is a guy who could have come into the league and been a legit starter straight out, or a stud closer, no question. Thing is, now it's Sam Bachman, and he's coming in. He's got, plus fastball, plus slider. Can't stay healthy, but I mean, he could touch 100 with that fastball. And that slider is just freaking ridiculous. And like I said, in the 80s, a guy with his kind of physicality would have just been pitched until his arm fell off, and then would have come back as a closer, throwing 100 and throwing that slider, and would have been, a hell of a closer for a number of years, still pitching 110 innings a year, because that's what we did in the 1980s. But, if he could keep his health, I really think there's enough there to be a potential mid-rotation starter. But the floor of that relief prospect, or the relief end for him, is so good. I know. I really like the idea of him potentially contributing to their bullpen in 2024.
I think the Angels have a really interesting bullpen coming into this year. And we're going to talk about another member of their bullpen later on. But that was he was one of the hardest Angels to really kind of get into, to see what the buzz was around him, because people are either completely off of him. Like, he's not even in James Anderson's top 400 prospects. So, I mean,
I love that. I love that for Dynasty, because everybody who believes or does the pay list, when they do a pay list, Sam, and they're like, this is the guy I trust, and they're off on somebody like that I still like. It's great. I've acquired him cheap in 2 money leagues over the last year. And it's hard to do something like Ben did a great job of saying, if you back up almost 40 years, this would have been like the highly touted guy. But now we've got, there's too much data to say he shouldn't do it, but the Angels, they're in, right. They're in the Sam Bachman business, and he should get another chance this year. And even if it is, like, if they said he's a starter long-term for them, they brought him up out of the pen, but whatever, put him back. They don't like to also have their guys at AAA that are going to come up. They've really hammered it home last year. It's you're a trash panda or you're in the show. And if you look at their minor league system right now, they have built a failed MLB lineup as their AAA lineup. Clearly, they are not trying to put their prospects in AAA. Pitchers might be different, but they have been promoting from AA up, and Bachman was also one of those guys, AA up and in. So I'm still with him. I'm glad he's in my next 3, but I'm so glad you also agree.
Well, hey, I feel like I've learned a bunch about a couple players tonight, and he was one of them that I was like, why the hell do you have him so high? He's an interesting case, so I will be paying attention. Mm-hmm. And I like Sam's. You can never have too much Sam, as far as I'm concerned. So, like, Sam Bachman and me, we're now thick
brothers.
Yeah, brothers in arms. All right, who are your next 3? You said your number 6 was Sam Bachman. So who are the other 2 that you have up in your next 3?
You want Ben go? Me to go? I've got Bachman in my next, Ben.
Yeah, I want you to go, Robbie.
Okay. So I have one Angel in my outfield, and that is David Calabrese, who I did accidentally tip my hat to earlier when I was talking Halpin. When I, go through the show in my head and then have my Angel dust, sometimes things get a little foggy for me. Anyway, so he's a 21-year-old lefty from the 2020 draft as well, the COVID draft, if you will. And he came along slow. Also, he's a Canadian. So, yes. I mean, he's
take off, eh?
Well, he's going to take off to the majors. But imagine being a 20-year-old in AA, seeing most of your teammates getting promoted to AAA, drinking alcohol after the game, maybe some during, and you're not. And they told you before the season, hey, David, you're going to play here all year, and we don't care how you do. All the pitchers are going to be about 4 years or older than you. Figure it out. That was DC, new nickname, okay, or DCC, David Calabrese, Canadian. And in 2023, it was just go out and play. He added some pop, which is obviously coaches trying to get in with him, lessen the stolen base. That was something previously we kind of were looking for with that, potential 5-category fantasy guy. But we're going to see as he repeats AA this year, where he'll only be 21, what he actually has and what he can offer for the team. And if he gets promoted to AAA, I'll be confused as hell, because everybody else in AAA, as I mentioned earlier, is a former major leaguer with several years. So I really think that Calabrese could go whatever. We know all the Joe Adell, Mickey Moniak stuff about their outfield situation, but I think he could be AA and up if it suits. And the other guy is Barrett Kent, 2023 8th round pick, 6'4", 215, bonus baby, high school arm. I think I've said this already. He is Dana light, maybe Dana's equal, coming at it from the right side. If his slider stays as his best pitch, which is something that Dana's going to need to do, is work really hard at getting a good changeup. Kent is in the same position, because when you're really good in high school, you don't have to worry about throwing a slider because you just blow it by everybody anyway. He's going to need to sort that out, and he needs to be able to stay high with the velo, because he did have an issue where he was dropping velo as games progressed last year. But he really needs to just work on, obviously, longevity within his starts. I'm taking the wait and see approach. Sorry, I took the wait and see approach with Dana last year, left him off most draft boards. Now I'm going to be scooping back, as I mentioned earlier. Kent, I'm not going to wait. I want to have him on my dynasty rosters. It could be the back end of any of your drafts, first year player drafts, or, if you just do a prospect draft. Usually these guys don't get picked up because there's too many other pieces out there. And like all the college players that are going to be around him in pro ball, because that's what the Angels normally draft. That they had the one draft 18 or 19 college pitchers and one high schooler. They only do this a couple times, so they see something in both of these guys. Not circling back to Dana specifically, but Kent, they've got something. They feel like they've got something. They paid him because they think he can be something, and I would rather be late round draft pick lost on him than find out, oh crap, I really should have been in on it, because it took, like, he's part of that 6'4", 215 club the Angels have with the high schoolers.
I like it. Now, Ben, you had him at number 5, your next 3, or number 2, however you want to look at that. Yeah. Why don't you give us your top and your third next 3 up?
Okay. Well, just quick, I had him that he has as high a floor as I've seen in a high school arm. I think that guy just spells a mid-rotation starter, and if he can do some things with the fastball, that's going to allow him to be better, because he lands all 4 pitches well right now. It's a matter of knowing how to shape them, and then maybe getting a ticket on top of the fastball could help him there. But I love the floor on it, which is a really weird thing to say about a high school pitcher, but I
think that's a rare thing to ever hear about a high school pitcher.
Yeah. I mean, he's got a very repeatable delivery. I like him. I think, barring injury, of course, changes this. That's a kid that he should make the major leagues, like that, which is really tough to say about a high school pitcher.
I've said it like 8 times tonight, Ben. Don't worry about it.
Well, there we go. So the guy I have, and honestly, I really struggled not to have him in my top 3, but Nelson Rada I believe he was the youngest player in the 2022 international class. And so he played all of 23 in full season ball at 17 years old. That's freaking elite. And he still put up a 395 on base, and he stole 55 bases at 17 years old. That's insanity to me.
Favorite part of that? 1-for-1 K to walk.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, his contact skills, his pitch recognition for a 17-year-old in full season ball.
Talking about him. I don't want anybody to pick him up anywhere. Can you stop?
Yeah, well,
you don't think they know? They know.
This
I don't want
to
know.
We haven't seen, and I mentioned this guy before when I was talking about Kova to Sam before the show, but we haven't really seen what Enrique Bradfield Jr. will look like as a pro. But if he puts up these kind of numbers, this is what you're expecting to see Bradfield be able to do as a pro. And this kid is doing it at 17 in full season ball. That's freaking impressive to think about.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah, maybe he's a 5 home run guy max as a major leaguer. But you know what? That speed and the defense, what I was really impressed with, I saw some fun, Cal League outfields, I got to say. It's like trying to play Tal's Hill in Houston, some of those outfields, and that's just naturally the way that they're sloped. You get a real good head of steam going from left to right in some of those fields because of the way that the outfield is sloped. It's scary, but he handled the outfield in the Cal League really well, and he got just impressive jumps. Like I said, for a 17-year-old kid, this kid's going to be a legit defender. So I like him a lot. With sadly, here comes another floor thing. When you can play great defense and you got a hell of a lot of speed, you've got a major league job someday in the outfield.
Right.
As long as you don't completely fall apart. So now my last guy here is my international pick. And I will say this is the guy who got paid the most of any of the guys that we're talking about tonight. And I like him by far the best. I'm gonna fuck up this first name, Joshua Lugo. But Lugo is easy. I got Lugo, but Joshua, I think is what you go. He's listed as a shortstop. He's already 6'3" and 190.
Of course he's a shortstop, right?
I don't think he's playing any shortstop as a pro. But and for those of you who remember Diamondbacks and Tigers prospects, Dawel Lugo, that's his brother. So
top 100. He's a top 100 then.
There you go.
He's got blood. He's got the bloodlines.
He's got bloodlines. But he is he got 2.3 million. So that's the highest bonus of any of these guys we're talking about. But in my opinion, just watching what I could see of him, this is a guy who is a top 5 guy from the J15 class this year, as far as dynasty owners and who you should be looking at. There are some guys who probably are better baseball talents and will maybe have a better baseball career than this guy. But I think as far as fantasy is concerned, he's a top 5. Lots of power and speed. The only question is where he's going to end up defensively. He's got enough arm to where he could work at third or in a corner outfield spot. And I think he's going to develop enough power to be that kind of a player to play at a corner outfield spot. But this is a guy that could end up being a big power and, double-digit speed for you. That's a really valuable freaking player. But he's fun to dream on right now.
Yeah, well, he's that young J2 player that, like we were just talking about, you never know if that lottery ticket's going to cash in. And, I can't hope for it because he's an angel, but I hope for it. I hope he ends up making it happen. I'm real curious. You guys, neither of you talked about a volunteer that got promoted.
I know where you're going.
105 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Where was Ben Joyce on your guys' list? Why did we leave him off?
I think he's in the left-handed batter's box like most of his fastballs. So
I just have this fear because we've seen it with some other younger MLB arms that he's not going to get the closer job. Like certainly not call it the next 2 years. And you don't want to recommend somebody go out and get a guy who can only be out of your bullpen and isn't going to close. And then you're getting into like the niche of niche. Well, if you're in a holds leagues, that's your guy. I don't think the value for dynasty is there. Like certainly for Flash, like that he looks great, like he's going to give up some monster dingers at times, probably when someone catches up to that bullet, but it's just not like the value's not going to be there until he can really wipe somebody out. Like if he could somehow create this like silly looping, 12-6 curve or something that could throw everybody off, that would be great. But otherwise, I don't think the value's there, especially when he is absolutely reliever. Like there was a Cleveland guy, I can't remember the name right now, who was drafted somewhere in the 70s. I think he was like a comp round. That's kind of not a similar idea, but he was a college guy who's just going to be an RP. And I thought about maybe mentioning him, but same idea. Until you know where they're going to be in that bullpen, and like they've got Jose Soriano, who has is it Jose Soriano? He was like a Rule 5 first overall pick like 3 years ago. Went to the Pirates. Everyone's like, oh, this guy, and then he got hurt, and then ended up back with the Angels. He's successfully in that bullpen now. There's always $2 million relief pitchers that can come in and block. So it's just really cloudy what Joyce could become, as much as it's fun, but you can't like I can in good conscience go tell somebody I would go acquire him. He's locked in. Like if you drafted him high, that was a bad idea. But
yeah,
I don't think that he's a guarantee for the closer. I mean, obviously those are all good points for closing. I think he ends up becoming their closer. I think he's got, I like
but
him.
When do you think that's a student? Like, is that
25?
Yeah. So you think it could be next year? Yeah.
Yeah. And in a lot of the dynasty leagues I play in, there are a lot of sold leagues that I'm in. They're not traditional saves. That seems to be most of the redraft.
It's far more common now.
Saves, right? And so I would say in those leagues, especially, if it's a saves only league, no, I 100% agree with you. But if you're in a sold league, nice angle, Robbie. I like that much better.
I wanted to see more alcohol behind me.
Here we go. I'm working on for everybody too.
Okay,
No,
Ben, you go lower. Ben, lower to the pants. Okay, and this is why you watch us on YouTube.
his
So no, see here, guys. This is
Oh,
what
here
I
he's
got
getting
on.
up. Yeah, okay, perfect. Good on you. I love that logo. I love that thing.
My favorite.
You just said,
yeah.
Sam, you just said Dynasty. I heard on one of the big shows, I guess we'll call it, if we're the prospect on the big show for Pallazzo, there is talk about a Pallazzo Dynasty startup. And I mean, I highly encourage everybody to reach out to whoever our point man will be on that. And we should set that up on the most honest fantasy website I can think of, and that's Fantrax. And I would more than happily
the only one
part commissioner. Yeah, they are the best for Dynasty, and there is no competition. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago I was on a CBS one. They didn't even have all the we were in our first year player draft.
CBS
I forget who the top 10 pick was. They didn't even have them on the friggin' system yet. And I was emailing, no response, of course, right, from CBS. But Fantrax, I got my boy Nathan at Fantrax. Now I don't have a personal relationship with him. He's not changing my lineup for me, is what I'm saying. But I send them an email about something in one of the many leagues I commission, and he's walks you through how to fix it. He tells you what you need to do. You pay a premium fee for the service, but you get the service. I would love if we were able to get, like, if anyone wants to do 30 teams, I'm there. That's my kind of dynasty.
Okay.
I'd be excited. We could talk. We could have a podcast about hashing it out with the people that want to be in that league as to format and all that kind of crap. Oh, it'd be fun. If we want to get into the nuts of auction, I'm excited.
Well, there you go. You heard it here, folks.
Yeah,
Robbie wants to have nuts right in his face. So,
oh boy.
My God, when I get out of here and hop upstairs. Oh wait, what were you talking about?
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Different nuts.
That's right. That's right.
Chad's talking about Zach Joyce, who was drafted this year for the Angels. Zach doesn't have the same stuff, but Zach had to go through some mental health shit in his time. Left baseball altogether for about a year, and then came back and pitched with Tennessee. He's an upper 90s guy, but he actually can feel his breaking pitch and his off-speed pitch. He actually knows how to locate those, which is already giving him a leg up on Ben. But I think that's a step too far, but that's a whole nother.
Well,
and then here's another one Chad brought up that I'll bring this up, that Livan Soto.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I loved Livan when he was with the Braves. I loved him still with the Angels. Fun guy defensively. Talking to if those of you who watched our 3-3 last year, when we had the Angels on, we had a gentleman who goes by the name Taylor Ward. He's not the actual outfielder, but he is a guy who actually covers the Angels, and you'll see him a lot on Twitter. He does a tremendous job covering the team. And he and I got into a discussion back and forth once, and he said, Ben, anyone I talk to at the team just simply says it's some of the weakest contact in the system. And that's sadly really played out throughout Livan's minor league career. I mean, he's hit 9 home runs last year, but he also played in the PCL and hit 8 of those. So I just, he can, when he's could be an on-base guy. He can play. He has a great glove. I just think this is a guy who, to me, should be behind Kyron Paris as far as the bench role for the Angels. And so, and they're not giving Paris a freaking shot. So that really tells you how much of a shot they're going to give Soto. So
yeah, he's too far back on the depth chart, and he's just going to get a steady diet of fastballs because he's not supposed to hit him hard. So when the average looks good, or you think you see a stat line, it's very similar to a guy who Jose Iglesias is a comp. No, Iglesias I think was able to put the ball in play more, and like excellent defender. I would say Reese McGuire comp, and that's with the MLB experience, because when Reese McGuire first came up, he wasn't crushing BABIP, but he had a really good average and ended his rookie season still rookie eligible. So in that offseason, I forget if that was 19, whenever it was, everyone was really excited about Reese McGuire. I'm talking about a catcher. Oh, what am I doing? They were just excited because they thought, hey, he could hit for the average. We didn't think he could. Well, no, then it came back down to reality with it. And then he got caught playing with his nuts in a parking lot.
I was just going to say, yeah.
I was gonna say, wasn't he fancy?
Yeah. Reese is a guy who things went up and then things went down, and he tried to keep them.
I mean, I've done the jokes a million times. He was touching his Reese's Pieces, you know?
Oh my God, you guys are off the rails. I'm here for it.
We don't know how to end a show, so we just do this.
That's what I'm here for. Hey, we are at the end of our Prospects Power Hour. Actually, it's been an hour and 15 minutes. I just want to again say, on your screen to my left is at Big Gentle Ben, and below me is at Robbie Baseball 1. I am your guest host today at Sam FBB1. If you want to subscribe to us on Twitter, yeah, I'm right above you, man.
Yeah,
just stare into the light, man. You can see
I'm listening.
Yeah. If you want to interact with us on Twitter, we're at Pallazzo Podcast. Ben, real quick, I want you to tell the people what we've got going on Wednesday.
So Wednesday is going to be a busy day for us with the Prospect Show. At 2:00 Eastern, we are going in the middle of the day. So, save your lunch hour and join us instead. We are going to be chatting with Baseball America's key international guy, Ben Badler. We're going to be talking J15. We're going to be talking kind of how we got to be January 15, which, COVID, but why has it stayed there? Things like that, and just a lot of the international market, both this year's class and the international market in general. I think it's going to be a really fun podcast for anyone who really wants to know what's going on and how to track these type of guys for Dynasty. This is going to be a podcast to watch. Then at 7:00, I believe Eastern that night, Mike VA, who's been commenting along the side here, Mike and Eric from Birdland. He joined us last year on the Orioles show. The guy knows Orioles probably as well as anybody out there. Those two guys are going to join at least me. I maybe go VA. I don't know, but for sure we're going to chat about the Baltimore Orioles system, because quite frankly, Robbie and I could have talked for a 90-minute show just on the Orioles and left players off.
There's the deep league. There's the organization. I mean, this is a system. Like I said, I was telling Sam before, I started following prospects when my favorite team had a guy who was on there for 2 years in a row, and that was Andrew Jones. He was the number one guy for 2 years in a row. So I've been following BA's lists now for about 30 years. And I've never seen a team pull off 3 different number one prospects in a row in the offseason list. That's never happened. This team has as much depth as I can ever remember a system having. Now, we all love the Dodgers system in what it can produce, but the Dodgers system doesn't even have this much depth. And that's saying a hell of a lot right now. Yeah.
I love watching Robbie looking up at me right now. This is hilarious, but
I'm gonna put a picture of you up here for the future.
But I think that should be a really fun show as well. And we're gonna get into, like I said, one of the deeper systems. But here's a question that I'm already planning to ask both Eric and then Mike as an Orioles fan. When are they going to use them? When are they going to use these guys finally in a trade that does something for them for more than just half a season?
They're not.
Yeah, like a pitcher,
they're not. That organization is not trading those prospects, because if they were,
that's the problem.
Could have done it this offseason.
Yeah,
you literally won the AL East. Go out and spend your minors' capital and make a winner. You have one of the best. The roster is sick.
Yeah.
So
I personally, I think a guy like Joey Ortiz is a major league starter at shortstop right now for somebody.
yep.
And quite frankly, Joey Ortiz in Miami is starting at shortstop. That team does not have a shortstop better than Joey Ortiz.
We
right
didn't
now.
even mention Jacob Amaya with the Marlins, and because we don't need to. But he's a former Dodger that moved over, and I'll talk to you now, Sam. And I just I keep getting offers for him in a particular contracts dynasty league, and the guy's like, he's going to start in Miami. I said, even if he does, I don't want him. I don't want 1.75 fantasy points per game from this guy at peak.
Right.
And that's just it. And Ortiz is not a guy who's going to give you elite fantasy skills, but his defense is freaking elite, and he could do something offensively, which is not what they get from anybody else. So that type of a guy going to Miami, bringing back somebody out of Miami's staple of pitchers, would be huge for them. But they're not willing to do that kind of a trade, which is just stupid to me. But anyway, we'll get into this type of discussion on Wednesday. I think it'll be a really fun talk.
I really hope you keep Mike from exploding. I can't imagine he's going to be to talk about his Orioles.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Are you watching, Mike? Did we lose you already? I know you're looking forward to the prospect conversation. We can't wait to see the joy on your face, because the team you love has some real shit going on. And when I say real shit, I mean really good stuff. So some quick production notes real quick. If you are listening to us afterwards when this is a podcast and you want to leave us a 5-star review because we've entertained and educated you, please do so. If you haven't already, hit subscribe either on our YouTube channel or wherever you can find us. We are here for you. We talked a couple times about mental health, and I just want to say my DMs should always be open. I don't know about you guys, but if you need to talk to somebody about life or baseball, like reach out. Life's good. We're looking forward to having baseball this year. And if you need to be brought into the light, surrounded by love, we love people and we love baseball. So,
amen.
And if you have automotive issues or you like trucks, my DMs are always open. Yeah,
that's right. That's right. So,
or if you just want to slap it with some nuts, I mean, that works
right.
too,
Yeah, I'm here for nut talk. I don't want pictures though. Thank you. I'm married to a girl.
Hold on next time you guys listen on Wednesday. Make sure you're buckled into your seats. Have your seatbelt on. Put on a helmet. Be ready. We have no idea what's going to happen. Well, again, with Ben and with Robbie, my name is Sam, and we'd like to thank you for spending your time this evening with us. Peace and love.